All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Welcome back to the Regenerative Ag Network. I'm excited. It's a great topic today. Just the what, how, when, and where do I get started on the cover crop. So you've decided 2020 is your year, whatever your motivator is, that's the year you're like, yep, we're going to learn about cover crops and how to reduce some tillage, how to reduce some inputs, and improve our soil. We got a little bit of erosion or whatever that motivator is. You decided 2020 is it. And so you've read the magazines, you know, all the articles. There's a lot of great articles in the last year or two in the magazines. You've been on YouTube and other social media platforms. You're watching guys farm this way, and it's looking really good to you. It's intriguing. You're seeing a lot of positive. Maybe you've even invested the time and money to go to some conferences, local cafe talks, or the big conferences, and you got surrounded by 200, 300 people that are just like you, that want to get into this. And in that crowd was a mix of guys that are very successful at it, maybe some farmer panel speakers that were very deep into the 5 principles of soil health and gave a good presentation. You're like, yeah, that's where I want my land to be someday. And so you get home at the conference, you get to, you know, how life works in the soil, nutrients, and that cycle of nutrients through the soil. Maybe you've heard some speeches on how nitrogen, you know, works in the soil, and how phosphorus and potassium work, and the different clays and all of that. And you went to a cover crop presentation. They talked about warm and cool season stuff, and then you get home and you're like, yeah, I want to do that, but how do I set it up? How do I know where to put the tests? How do I know when to apply stuff? How do I know what stuff to apply? I don't know. That's why we're here, guys. That's why we're here. I'm a go to the deep end of the pool, plug my nose, jump in. I'll figure out how to swim before I drown, hopefully. And most other people are kind of the go to the shallow end and dip a toe in and feel it out. And that's where we want you to be. My diving in on the deep end was 3 years of very educational. Looking back, at the time it was 3 years of, this is just stupid, why are we doing this? And so you have enough stress going into 2020. We don't need to add more stressors. So I'm working with a couple guys trying to set up a simple plan for them, and we're going to discuss that today. And I like it. I like it a lot. I think it is extremely easy, efficient, successful, based. You will make it work, plain and simple. And so the big thing we need to remember going into 2020 is you have enough stress coming out of 2019. The last thing you need going into 2020 is more stresses. You've got your own mental health and your family to take care of. You don't need some dirt and some plants causing you more stress. And so we're going to just really emphasize this. Keep it simple, stupid. So for this first year, you don't need to really buy much of any equipment. You can do it by renting a spreader from the co-op. Is how simple we're going to set you up. Don't worry about buying equipment. You don't need to know cover crop stuff. There's Agri-C seeds. You got guys there. You got Albert Lee Seed House. You probably got some local, depending on where you're at in the country. You've got cover crop places around you that can give you just a general NRCS mix, or whatever your goal for your mix is. Let the experts just build you something simple. Plain simple. So you don't have to spend 1 ounce researching cover crops for this Petri dish. So no equipment. You don't have to spend any time learning cover crop seeds. You don't have to go fill out NRCS grants. That's going to come down the road when you get this system cooking and you're like, okay, I'm liking this now. It's been 3 years. We think we got it under control. Now let's take it out to a 60-acre piece. Now go get your grant to help pay for the cover crop seeds and some of the other practices you want to implement. But for starters, we're starting on such a tiny area. You just out of pocket, $100, $200 worth of cover crop. That's it. we don't need to worry about return on investment, because for this little petri dish, for the first couple of years, we're not going to be sweating this. You're not doing the whole farm. You're literally doing 1% or 0.5% of your farm. So for the first couple of years, return on investment, we don't need to worry about that. Management of it, it's going to be in the middle of your field. So management is very simple. We don't want a piece away from home or you don't want to do a 20 acre or something across, down a ways that every time you need to go do something, it's a special trip, because you got enough stuff to worry about in 2020. So what we're going to do is, the cover crop, back to that quick with the seeds, they'll pick you out the seeds. Don't worry about exact timing. And that's the other nice thing about not filing for the grants and the EQIP programs, is because you're literally only doing a couple acres. It's easy out of pocket. You don't have to follow their guidelines for timing and this and that. You got a lot of flexibility that works in your schedule. So we're going to stay small. So the little, what I've designed for these guys is just super simple. 2 sprayer rounds, maybe 1 sprayer round. If you got a 90-foot sprayer, 1 round of the sprayer. So if you got this field, pick an average field on your farm, or if it's a spot that actually has some erosion that you need to start getting under control, pick that spot. 1 sprayer, 1 round with the sprayer, 2 rounds with the sprayer, maximum is all you need to do. Don't even need to get into the headlands, just 2 rounds. Whatever your normal spring is with that sprayer, you do it. So if you're going into corn, let's say you're year 1, you're going into corn. If it's bean stubble that's already been worked up, fine. Don't worry about it. We'll get to no-till at a different point. For this first year, it might just be some cover. So if your first time is in the corn, the bean stubble's ripped last fall, finish it, spray your pre-emerge, plant it, and then put a couple stakes at the headland, marking that 1 round with the sprayer. Now at some point the corn's going to get yay high. It don't matter. It's corn. It can be here. It can be here. It's your first year. Don't sweat it. When you're able to get out to do it, that's when you do it. We don't, in my climate, we don't want to wait till V5. V4, V5, we're a little bit late. So for us, I would say V2, V3 would be optimal timing, just because as soon as that corn canopies, wherever you're at in the country, as soon as that corn canopies, that cover crop is going to shut way down. A lot of the species might just die. Some will just lay there dormant until leaf fall in the fall, and then they'll come back up. And so at some point in the spring, when the corn's from here to here, go down to the co-op, rent a 6-ton spreader, or run down to your local Mills Fleet Farm and get a little 3-point spinner spreader, a little 500-pound capacity. For 4 acres, you literally got 2 or 3 bags of cover crop. Maybe you got 4 bags of cover crop seed, $120, $150 out of your pocket. Cut them, dump them in the bag, go out where the stakes are, you zip up and down and run it out. It doesn't have to be calibrated perfect. So you start out a little bit light, you get to the other side and you still got a bunch left. Well, you go back across, maybe you open the gate a little more to make sure you're empty by the time you get across. It's that simple. You've invested a half hour, an hour of your time. Not that big a deal. Or if you're already top dressing your corn somewhere around V4, if you're top dressing corn at V3, V4, when you get to the end of the field and the cart is empty, the 6-tonner from the co-op, come back, shut the gate down, dump your bags in, run up and down your petri dish area, done. You're out a few minutes, a half hour time, then you go back to your fertilizing, refill, and keep on moving. It is that simple, guys. Now when you're coming by for second pass herbicide application, when you get to that spot, you just you spray up to it, you drive around it, and you continue spraying. 0 time invested. Let the cover crop grow. Monitor that field, scout there, watch for noxious weeds. If noxious weeds just start taking it over bad, do a rescue spray. Sacrifice the cover crop, that's okay. But if noxious weeds aren't bad, if you only got a couple, you can go out, walk it by hand, take a dirt bike, run up and down the rows, pluck the weeds by hand if the crop's small enough yet. and then just let the cover crop grow and combine. Done. Your first year of cover cropping is done. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. If you are in an area that you can get some winter rye seeded behind the corn, hire somebody to just drill them couple acres. Plain and simple. Or if you got a vertical till tool or an old disc, I guess run a few bags of winter rye through the broadcaster on your little piece and scratch it with a vertical till, or somebody with a vertical till scratch it in just to help it get seeded in. Boom, done. Now you're already set up for 2021. It's that simple. Coming for fall tillage across the corn, when you get to that spot, stop. Jump to the other side and continue on. Now you got that spot set up for no-till beans in 2021, and you had some cover crops on it. Hopefully something will be winter hardy. Maybe not. Maybe you get anything, depending where you're at, you get everything that's not winter hardy, so you don't have anything to worry about for potential weeds. It's that simple. If you're doing beans, let's say in the spring you still have to work your corn stalks. Work up to that spot, jump to the other side, keep on going. No-till your beans in. This fall, put some winter rye behind the beans. Boom, done. You're into soil health. It's that easy, guys. It is that easy. If you really want to have some fun into beans, skip the pre-emerge for that spot maybe, or do a roundup or some type of burn down, and then get some cover crops in there. And then at second pass, some grasses. Obviously, we're not going to introduce broadleaves into the soybean, but if you just bring in some oat grass, plain and simple, just put 30 pounds of oats out there right behind the plant or in front of the plant or whatever, and frost seed the oats where you think you might want to go. It works at whatever point. And then at second pass herbicide, you burn it down. Now by the time you come to combine, that's all dead and gone, but you've had several weeks of a little plant growing, putting a lot of roots in the ground, putting carbon in the soil, putting sugar, putting life in the soil, starting that process of building structure. And so then you just keep that thing alone for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it takes you to figure out your program. It's that easy, guys. I can't emphasize enough how stress-free farming the sustainable fields have become. You just drive, you just do your farming on them fields. You don't care about weather. You just do what you got to do when you need to do it. And so it's well worth trying. I think that's a good start for today. Remember, keep it simple. We've developed a program that you can learn how to cover crop. You can learn how to get into reduced tillage the following spring with some cover crops. I would not, with winter rye going into soybeans, I probably wouldn't skip a herbicide application your first year. I would let the winter rye just be that much more of an aid in helping control weeds on your farm. Let it get big and green in the spring. It's not how with a good quality Roundup and other burn down products we have, you're gonna stop that rye. It's not that big of a deal in soybeans, but it's gonna be there and it's gonna help the soil big time. That little bit of cover crop is gonna help that transition to less tillage so fast. And so, guys, I'm just gonna end right there. I think we have a fantastic plan set up. The next series of videos we'll get into breaking down the 5 principles of soil health and how all the different scenarios we can come up with for each one, and how a beginning guy can try to incorporate some of them on their farm. And so thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.